Fight to wrangle the Fed continues. President Trump demanding the immediate resignation of one of the Fed's 12 voting members. This person, appointed by Joe Biden and now referred for criminal prosecution. And guess what for? Mortgage fraud. What else? All of these people seem to commit mortgage fraud. It's crazy. And we have a copy of this referral. Wait till you see this. Also, New York AG Letitia James, one of the worst prosecutors in this country, may be about to resign. Her attorney speaking out. We'll watch that and more stories as well from around the country. So Friday is the day. Fed Chair Jerome Powell scheduled to speak at Jackson Hole. All eyes will be on Jackson Hole as it appears Powell's begun trying to shift his stance now on loosening monetary policy, on cutting the night rate, something President Trump, as we know, has been personally pushing for, putting massive political pressure on Jerome Powell this last month, and he's refused thus far to cut rates. Well, we're hearing he's come around, gotten the message, it's time, the rates need to come down, but it's not quite that simple. Powell's only one vote. There's still 11 other votes that matter, one in particular who suddenly, over the last 6 months, has become extremely hawkish. One, Lisa D. Cook, appointed to the Board of Governors by Joe Biden. The Board of Governors realize exists for only two simple reasons: to maximize employment and minimize inflation. But both of them very important. So you'd think the person who's nominated to the Fed's Board of Governors knows what they're talking about, knows what they're doing, and yet Joe Biden, a few years ago in 2022, picked somebody not because she's a brilliant economist. No, they selected her because she was the first woman of color to sit on the Federal Reserve Board.
That the confirmation of the president's nominees to the Federal Reserve is super important. This is the first and foremost institution fighting inflation. And the fact that we now have a Federal Reserve with Dr. Lisa Cook, the first black woman ever to be on a Federal Reserve Board, is, I think, a key achievement of Bidenomics, trying to make sure that this extremely important global economic institution looks a little bit more like some of the people that it's representing.
Does she even know why she's voting a certain way? Because last year she voted to cut rates, and then since Trump was inaugurated, she's voted at each FOMC meeting to keep rates unchanged. And look, the story about Lisa Cook, it just gets worse and worse. The Daily Wire, a few years ago, when she was first nominated, did a deep dive on who she is, and what they found was almost no published economic record at all. Virtually all of her work, all of her published work, was focused on race activism rather than rigorous quantitative economics.
How economically illiterate is she? Well, according to economist John Cochrane, quote, in her extensive writing for academic journals and think tank essays listed under publications, you will find essentially nothing related to monetary policy, monetary effects on employment, interest rates, inflation, financial regulation, or other traditional Fed topics. In fact, those are the topics the Fed takes up, and she's written nothing on them because she doesn't know anything. So the Daily Caller looked into Cook and found that she inflated her resume to bolster her credentials in those areas, which itself is disqualifying. She has no experience with monetary policy. What does she do? She's like an angry race activist, of course. She's another race lady.
She's now on the Fed. This is someone who MSNBC wouldn't even hire. She's just too radical of a person, yet Biden picks her for the Board of Governors a few years ago. Even the Senate back then didn't think she was qualified. Her nomination came down to Vice President Kamala Harris casting a tie-breaking vote, something that's very unusual. Take her predecessor, for instance, Janet Yellen, not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but even she was confirmed in the Senate unanimously. Well, fast forward to today, our country's burning through more than $1 trillion a year in interest now, interest alone, a number that's about to jump big time if the Fed doesn't cut rates immediately. We have over $10 trillion in Treasury bills about to expire, $10 trillion. Trump's talked about this publicly a number of times, that each point the Fed cuts from the night rate will save our country around $400 billion a year in interest.
It's something you sort of have or you don't have. They don't. The job he's done is just terrible. He ought to raise interest rates. You know, we should be at 1%. We should be leading the world. Instead, we're paying 4%. And if you look at what that means, that's over $1 trillion in interest that we have to pay. That with the striking of a pen, we would be saving more than $1 trillion. Is that right, Scott? Do you have anything to say about it?
It's not just the interest. Mortgage rates are stuck in the sevens. Credit card debt, car loans, everything that involves credit is ridiculously expensive. Expanding your business, capital expenditures. So who's standing in the way of fixing this? Lisa D. Cook, who's appearing to play politics with our country's monetary policy, all of our futures, really. That's what she's doing, all because she has TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. Well, the Trump administration's fighting back after a tip was apparently called into the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, informing them to the fact that Lisa Cook may be committing mortgage fraud. Bill Pulte, looking into this, checked the FHFA's mortgage database, and what do you know? He says it's true, sending a criminal referral to Pam Bondi and DOJ Special Prosecutor Ed Martin to prosecute Lisa Cook. Bill Pulte's referral, including the evidence, he says, he alleges that Cook falsified bank documents and property records to acquire more favorable loan terms, potentially committing mortgage fraud under the criminal statute. Bloomberg reporting this morning that Cook took a mortgage on a property in Ann Arbor, Michigan, signing a mortgage agreement that she stipulated would use the property as her primary residence for at least 1 year. Then 2 weeks later, according to the letter, she took another mortgage out on a Georgia property and also declared it would be her primary residence. How many times have we seen these people do this? So many of these bureaucrats seem to be doing this for some reason. And if you're a homeowner, you know that there are federal benefits for better rates and down payments and so forth if you're a first-time home buyer and if your property is your primary residence versus a rental, etc. That's what this is all about. President Trump even weighing in on Truth Social, saying Cook must resign now, linking to the Bloomberg report. And what makes this even worse is if it's true, which we assume it is, we don't know for sure, Bill Pulte released her actual signed mortgage documents, so we're assuming it is. There's a criminal referral now. What she also did was she then apparently listed her home as a rental, which is a big no-no. If Lisa Cook doesn't resign her post, by the way, she's going to be a permanent member of the Board of Governors until 2038. 2038, that's a long time. Pam Bondi, by the way, hasn't commented on this yet, on this case, nor have she even opened an investigation into the matter. However, we do know someone else who most definitely is under criminal investigation, that being Letitia James, AG of New York, who we're hearing may be about to resign. Maybe about to resign as the Attorney General of the state of New York. But before we look at that, a quick message from our friends over at Black Forest Supplements. Before we look at that, I just found something wild out about stem cells. If you don't know, stem cells are like tiny repair crews in your body, and they go fix things that need to be fixed. This is Ronnie Coleman, 8 times Mr. Olympia, and a man who squatted 800 pounds like it was nothing, sharing how stem cells helped him when nothing else could. Watch.
When you went on Rogan, he wanted to refer you to stem cells.
For the last 2 years, I've been getting stem cells, and it's been the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life.
Really?
Yeah, but you got to go out of this country to do it because they don't really allow the real stem cells that comes from the placenta, you know?
Yeah.
They don't allow that here in the United States because politics.
What exactly is stem cells?
So my understanding is that they're like blank cells that
Yeah.
can transform to anything you surround themselves with, they'll turn into that. So if you inject them in your leg, they'll turn into leg cells.
It wipes out the pain I go through because I have a herniated disc in my upper back still. As soon as I get the stem cell injection, it completely goes away.
And how much is it?
$2,800
Per,
injection.
where do you go?
Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
The thing about stem cells is that they are crazy expensive. You have to go outside the country to get them. Stem cells could regenerate your joints, repair your spine, even reverse organ damage. Yet, in the US, most of these therapies are illegal. Why? Because healing you doesn't make them money. Keeping you sick, on the other hand, does. The FDA cracking down on nearly all clinics offering real regenerative therapies. Why? Not because they're unsafe, but if you could repair your knees without surgery, fix your back without opioids, or reverse aging without a prescription, who loses? Big Pharma loses. The insurance companies, they lose. The hospital chains. They don't want you to be strong. They don't want you to be independent. They want you hooked on meds, on insurance, on a job you hate just to afford basic health, because a self-sufficient, pain-free population, that's unprofitable and ungovernable. Luckily, my guys at Black Forest developed cocoa flavanols. Studies have been done to show that the flavanols in cocoa stimulate stem cells to come out of your bone marrow, like bees coming out of a beehive in your bloodstream. And they go out and they find whatever needs to be repaired. If it's in your heart, they'll fix it. If it's in your liver, they'll fix it. If it's in your skin, they'll fix it. Harvard scientist Dr. William Li backing this up. Check this out.
If you take the really dark chocolate, like 73% cacao, the really dark chocolate, and you make it into a high flavanol hot chocolate drink, and you have it twice a day. This was a clinical study. They found in people who wound up actually drinking the hot chocolate twice a day over the course of a month, they doubled the number of stem cells compared to the people who didn't drink hot chocolate, right? So, when you and I are growing up, right, in grade school, we learned from our teachers that starfish can regenerate, salamanders can regenerate, but people can't regenerate.
Yeah,
right?
can't grow a new arm.
It's true, you can't grow a new arm, but we do regenerate. We regenerate every day. We know that we regenerate because our hair falls out and grows back. Our gut lining grows back. Our livers can grow back. If you actually remove part of your liver, it'll grow back. Our skin grows back, you know. Our bodies possess the ability to regenerate through stem cells.
This isn't your average cocoa. It's a stem cell power-up. I mix it into my coffee, sometimes my protein shakes. Tastes great, and the benefits are real. No sugar, only 20 calories. So if you're experiencing significant aging, slow recovery, weak immunity, or just feeling off, blame your lazy stem cells. But guess what? Cocoa flavanols activate them. Like a fountain of youth in a scoop. Studies show that cocoa flavanols increase stem cell circulation by over 100%. Go to my link in the description or pinned comment below. For the next 48 hours, you can get a whopping 40% off promo for 48 hours only. Stock up while you can. Again, it's Black Forest High Flavanols Cocoa. Special Prosecutor Ed Martin, a pit bull of a prosecutor, has been tasked with Letitia James' case, who, wouldn't you know, Letitia James also under criminal investigation for doing the same thing as Lisa Cook, allegedly. Over the weekend, Ed Martin making news for dropping by Letitia James' property in person. He says to view the scene of the crime in person as the prosecutor. Watch this.
I wanted to lay eyes on it. I think most people, if you're prosecuting something, you're careful. I didn't go there and announce it. Some woman came storming up and shooting video and talking to me, but I wanted to see the property.
CNN losing their minds over this, even inviting James's attorney on their network to cry political weaponization. You seriously can't make this up.
A photo op outside the home of a top Trump rival is raising eyebrows tonight. CNN has exclusive new video showing DOJ prosecutor Ed Martin posing for photos outside the Brooklyn home of New York Attorney General Letitia James, whom Martin is actively investigating for mortgage fraud, among other things. James denies any wrongdoing in that matter, but in this matter, that's Martin himself in the tan trench coat, joined by a DOJ colleague and a photographer from the New York Post. My source tonight is Letitia James's attorney, Abby Lowell, who says that these investigations of her are politically motivated. Abby, first, you hear Ed Martin there with his explanation that he wanted to see the property. What is your reaction to that?
Brianna, it's so easy to make fun of the things Ed Martin does and says. I've seen headlines likening him in his trench coat to being Inspector Gadget. Somebody has said that he's making the Keystone Cops look good. But the point is, because it is so easy, people forget how serious this is. And it's not a funny matter at all. 40, 50, 80 years ago, each attorney general has spoken to the power of an individual prosecutor to affect lives of people, not because of what they've done, but who they are or what they've represented. And this is not a theoretical problem. It's not just at the level of Washington. When we allow prosecutors to do what they do, not because of the conduct, but because they are carrying out the president's wishes for revenge against, for example, Attorney General James, who brought a lawsuit against Mr. Trump and his businesses and got a multi-$100 million verdict, it can creep down to the point where Democrats then do it against Republicans, Republicans against Democrats, and soon even on everyday justice. And people rely on police and prosecutors and courts. We basically destroy the rule of law. So one brick at a time, you can bring down a building.
The woman who campaigned on politicizing the DOJ now complaining about weaponization. What do you know? Letitia James is the worst purveyor of weaponization we've ever seen in our justice system. Her entire campaign gig was about going after Donald Trump, finding a crime on Donald Trump. And none of this, by the way, will stand up. Ed Martin's now requested through her legal counsel that she resign immediately as a show of good faith.
Ed Martin made another highly unusual move. He sent you a letter suggesting that Attorney General James should resign as an act of good faith.
That's a warning signal that the longer you refuse, Letitia, you're only making it worse for yourself. Letitia James' political/legal career coming to an end, folks. Take that to the bank. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.